We've been grinding for 3.5, 4 long months drafting best ball teams. And today, I'm finally going to draft my 150th and final Best Ball Mania 4 team on Underdog, trying to win $3 million. Let's put the cherry on top of this tournament today. For me, Erik Beimfohr here at Spike Week. Let's do it. All right, it's a bittersweet day. It has been a fun summer of grinding Best Ball Mania on Underdog. Quite frankly, it's hard to believe that we are here, and I'm a little bit happy to get it out of the way early. We have so many tournament options now available to us, and so many drafts I still want to do in these final 16 days before the season kicks off. That I'm excited. I'm excited to do this final draft here with you guys. And we can quickly go over kind of some of what my teams look like using our very own Draft IQ tool just for a couple of minutes. And then we will hop into this BBM draft. Of course, thank you guys for joining me. Melch, this is I like this extension of the bit, a shot of soup. But Charles says you need to celebrate this milestone and do a shot for every wide receiver you draft. Absolutely not. That will never happen again in my life. That is like the hot dog draft. It will live on in infamy, but it's never going to happen again. And I'm never going to eat a hot dog, and I'm never going to drink a half a bottle of whiskey in 45 minutes while drafting a fantasy football team. I'll tell you that much right about now. Yeah, shout out Felix, my good buddy Felix. Took me long enough to max it. I am excited. I am very excited, actually, to be done here. Oh, yeah, some good guesses. Denver out here guessing some exposures, which, like I said, I'll pull up here in just a minute. Yeah, I could do this, a shot of beer rather than a shot of whiskey. So I'm completely shit-faced on a Friday night. This is good. Yeah, 149 drafts in. Time to balance out the exposures with some dusty running backs that don't catch passes. Fun fact, I drafted a bunch of not dusty running backs. I drafted a bunch of running backs who don't catch passes on Underdog, which you will see. You can keep the guesses coming, and I'm happy to. I'm an open book. If you want to see how much exposure I have to a certain player, by all means, fire away, ask questions, whatever. I'll pull it up, but I did just want to hit Devin's comment. It is 100% hard to believe we're only 16 days away. You're trying to hit 75. Dude, I don't blame you. We love Underdog around here. They're the best. They're one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, why we're all here and why I'm here and why Spike Week exists and everything. So, all those caveats or whatever. But I kind of made it known, back in late April, early May when BBM came out. It's not really my favorite tournament. The structure of the tournament, 3 million up top is nice, and that's why I'm drafting 150 teams, because I think this is like the golden age of best ball, where we're not going to get this many years, right? In 5 years, we're going to look back at the teams, even the things that I'm saying this year, the way that we're drafting. We're going to learn so much over the course of several years. The competition's going to get tougher, whatever. And so, I actually don't love the meld, the bringing together of the season-long prizes and the tournament structure into one, and then like kind of how it had to work in order to do that. I say that, and if I happen to finish highly in the regular season or win the whole thing, I mean, you won't hear me complaining. But it wasn't necessarily my favorite tournament. So to your point, there's a lot of tournaments out there. There's a lot of tournaments at all price points. Any bankroll you got, there's a $3 tournament on Drafters. DraftKings has got a low stakes stuff. There's still going to probably continue to be some more cheap stuff, I think, pop up here on Underdog, since the fill rates are going really well over there. Anyway, long-winded way of saying I wouldn't worry too much about that. This is a pretty good line, Andrew. I will say this is a pretty good line on how last thing before I pull up these exposures. I am very happy 2 have basically maxed BBM before last night's Monday night football game in the preseason, because Sam Howell going out there and playing well for a half on prime time, right, on Monday Night Football in the preseason, people getting to see him. He's been named, right? So he gets named the for sure starter, which we knew that. All the sickos already knew that. But then he goes out on Monday Night Football in the preseason, plays a whole half and plays well. Looks good. The announcers are even, right, all these little things. If you listen to the announcers are talking about how great he's playing, other than the sack he took on that first drive. And it was just like, oh, now in every draft you get in, Sam Howell goes a little higher and a little higher and a little higher. And so as a guy who wanted to make Sam Howell and the Washington Commanders like a core tenet of my strategy this year, which you'll see in a second, I'm very happy to have gotten that out of the way. I've been drafting on DraftKings or Drafters or whatever a lot lately as I kind of slow play my last few BBMs. And I mean, the steam on Howell is crazy. So, even my guy Cole Turner, starting on Monday Night Football, he's getting drafted now. And so I'm happy to have gotten a lot of that in before this. Let me share my screen, and then I'll of course hit the comments. Feel free to keep them coming. I'll try to hit as many as I can before we hop into this draft. All right, let me zoom in a little bit. For those of you that have not seen, this is our Draft IQ tool, where you can see your exposure, and I'm on the exposure tab. So there's a couple different tabs here. I love the lineups page for when the season gets here, to be able, Sam Howell throws that touchdown to Jahan Dotson. Let's go look at all my Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson teams on the lineups page and really actually look at the lineups. But for this, what we're doing here on the exposure tab, so you can see all the different. So I'm 351 drafts deep. This doesn't include weekly winners, which I'm like 22 or something like that. So, we'll get to. I'm not going to do many more on Underdog once I get this in. But so about 350 drafts. I'm only going to look at Best Ball Mania here because I don't want super flex and the big board and some of that other stuff to skew what my ownership looks like. What you will see though in some of these other tournaments, wildly different exposures across some of the tournaments. So without further ado, we scroll down, as you guys can see here, over here, just within the individual players and my highest own. My 6 highest owned players. We'll just run that top 6 because I think it makes a ton of sense if you've been following me at all. I got up to 52% Sam Howell. That's kind of about where I was honestly trying to get to, somewhere around half of my teams with Sam Howell. And the reason why I like that is you kind of create a lot of cover when you take a stand on the late round quarterback. I understand some people don't like that. And I know there's lots of people who probably have 0% Sam Howell and think I'm a fool. And that's okay. I think he was just a rare opportunity that we don't really get nowadays from a late round quarterback that can actually produce like, not like Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, but like he was way underpriced. The only reason he went where he went, and you'll see some of the other quarterbacks I have heavy exposure to, the reason why Sam Howell went where he went is because people don't know, is he even going to start, right? Smart people like Pat Crane are worried about him holding the starting job. And so for me, that was a buying opportunity, because if people didn't, like, if they didn't have Jacoby Brissett behind him, if people weren't worried about, basically like playing time, it's like a projectable volume thing, right? You're worried about projectable volume for Jackson Smith and Jigba, but he's just awesome. And, you're worried kind of about the game volume for Sam Howell. But if he plays, no one would argue that he's not underpriced. And so we took a big stand there and got a little lucky on the rise. Damian Harris and frankly, J.K. Dobbins and Rashad Penny, a lot of these other guys, even Rashad Bateman. It hasn't gone my way. Sam Howell definitely went my way. Damian Harris, unfortunately, the injury during training camp. I'm still, my tune hasn't changed on Damian Harris. I'll be happy to hold that L if he's the third stringer behind Latavius Murray. I'm happy to, like I said, I'm happy to admit I'm wrong if that happens. But I still don't really think anything has changed. I understand there's some Latavius getting goal line carries in practice. Like, that is what it is. Trey Sermon is getting camp like tons of camp hype for the Eagles. And like, that's just one of those things that I would rather just draft the best player. And I believe Damian Harris is much better than Latavius Murray. Understand if someone disagrees, but that is what it is. J.K. Dobbins, we've talked a lot about him. I'm not going to go belabor that one too much, but particularly as he fell, I have this guy ranked in the 40s on Underdog, and we were getting him in the 60s and 70s. And so he was someone I really wanted to have a good amount of, and then he turned into, I'm drafting on Underdog specifically to draft J.K. Dobbins. So he wasn't a planned big stand for me. Jahan Dotson was. I much prefer Jahan Dotson. I like Terry McLaurin. Jahan Dotson was 100% like my Washington guy that I really wanted to take, and obviously I'm stacking him with Sam Howell a bunch. Rashad Penny, talked a lot about him. The closing line value has not worked out very well for me, but I'm not that much has changed. And I think some positive things have come out lately where it's been all the Gainwell hype and Penny not playing, really with the starters or, leading the backfield in the preseason. But I think all the news now is basically kind of like Philly's going to just committee this. And I think that's going to lead to good weeks for all these guys. And if you give me some second half up 21 Rashad Penny, against the Giants or whatever, and I'm cool with that. But then Rashad Bateman, I've also talked a lot about Rashad Bateman. Now let me hit some of these comments I got to catch up here. Let's look up Tutu. Let's see Tutu here. And I'll really quickly go over like some of the stacks and all that kind of stuff that we have here. So 17%, very close. Bernie was very close. I got 17%, Tutu, Atwell, and then obviously when we search for Tutu, you can kind of see what those teams look like with Tutu. Clearly, look at that. Literally 52% Sam Howell and 52% Sam Howell with Tutu Atwell. So that's funny. Lots of Lamar, not surprising. I don't draft Matthew Stafford. I may not have Stafford on a Tutu team. Yeah, I don't draft Matthew Stafford. So unsurprisingly, in week 15, lots of Washington and Rams, but lots of Rams game stacks all throughout, which has been something that I've been definitely really focused on. Let's hit I guess to hit this question, am I worried about the JSN? No, I'm not. Unless we, not at this point. Like all the news that we have so far is he broke a bone in his wrist, and they're still hopeful he'll be back for week 1. And so that he was already a core piece of what I was trying to do in drafts. Obviously, you see him as my 8th highest owned player or whatever. As he falls, it's buying time. And if you weren't in on him, right, it feels like a lot of these guys, if you weren't in on J.K. Dobbins, the world just, the best ball world just gave you the perfect time to go buy this guy, right? You weren't in on Rashad Bateman. You weren't in on Treylon Burks. You weren't in on those guys. Like that's fine. We all have different player takes and everything. But now is like, if you had 3% JSN, like he's going to fall. And now's a good time to get your JSN because I don't really think it changes much of anything at all for him. With, of course, that's subject to change. If they come out and say, oh, no, this is a lot bigger deal, he's going to miss the first month, that naturally changes things. But I'm not worried right now. Yes. Oh, it's always the guy with the name Tiggle Biddies that comes in and it's going to be negative about something. So running down these highest exposures here for you, James. Tons of Howell Dotson stacks. Let's see here. Yeah, definitely a huge prayer circle for JSN. David says, and again, 52% Howell will be a free roll when you bank all the money playing him in week 1 DFS against the Cardinals. That is for sure. That is definitely for sure. Yeah. This is actually a really good point from Zachary. It says being wrong on Damian Harris wouldn't bury you anyway. And that's actually, Dobbins and Dotson were like kind of fringe in terms of this thing, but this is actually something I have taken away from some mistakes, frankly, that I made in the last couple of years, where I was taking some of my biggest stands were like these early round guys, or like an early round quarterback, right? Trey Lance, an early round tight end, Kyle Pitts, an early round wide receiver, Gabe Davis. And like Gabe was fine, but right, not amazing. Most of my stands were like lots of these early sexy breakout guys. And I do have a bunch of JSN, but like, you see it's like the backup running backs, double-digit round picks. Sam Howell was going in the 17th, 18th round for most of Best Ball Mania, right? Damian Harris is a double-digit round pick. Rashad Penny is a double-digit round pick. Jalen Warren, right? Big stand on Mark Andrews, but Tajay, right? Eli Mitchell, like all these guys that are Desmond Ridder, Tyler Algier, Kendre Miller, AJ Dillon, right? Like you sense a theme. Rashid Shaheed, like all like 80 to 90% or something like that of my guys that are the highest owned are the cheaper guys, because I think them being mispriced is something that's more valuable and more tangible that I can act on. And B, even if I'm wrong, right? If I'm wrong and 11th round Damian Harris is not the guy you need, I got 75 other teams. Like I can win with not every player on every roster. Like Pat Kerrane won with one of the worst the second worst quarterback pick besides Trey Lance in Tom Brady. He was horrid, right? DJ Moore, fine. Like Chris Godwin, fine. Like all these guys were fine on his team, but you don't need everybody to be a complete and utter smash. And if you whiff at a cheap price, right? If I whiff on Howell, I am going to have 75 other teams, 72 other teams that I can totally get by on. Or I'll have Howell paired, what you'll see on lots of Howell teams, right? He's with Lamar. He's with Joe Burrow. He's with Patrick Mahomes. Or he's with Jordan Love and Desmond Ridder. It's like, okay, my 17th round quarterback didn't hit. So what? I still got 2 other late round quarterbacks on this team, or I still got Lamar Jackson on this team. Like that's kind of how I approached it. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's really what drove a lot of my super heavy exposure, on top of the fact, and I promise we'll get to the draft in a minute, on top of the fact that this payout structure is really, really top heavy, dude. So it's I wrote about this. You can go back and find it on spikeweek.com. I wrote about like, what does this new structure of Best Ball Mania mean back in May. And it actually led to, so like my exposures are not as drastic in like the puppies, stuff like that. I wanted to, if I get the getting fewer things right, I wanted to extrapolate that onto a handful of different players a little bit more heavily in BBM, because a very small percentage of people get paid out in the regular season. A very small percentage get a bunch of money in the regular season. So if I hit on a couple of these guys, I might have a shot in the regular season. I wasn't drafting for the regular season, but it certainly doesn't hurt on the playoff side, right? It's really, really top heavy. Like, not only do you need to make the finals, which is already like an impossible task, 1 in every 8 to 10 years. You need to get there. You need to win it. So like, I wanted to bring down the amount of things I needed to get right on like some of the mid to late round guys who I thought were huge edges. In some different structures and different tournament formats. I'm not doing that quite as heavily, but I wanted to do it in Best Ball Mania. Let's see here. Amen to that. As Jesse says, hit that like button. And see, this is we talked about this a little bit in the Discord today, and I talked about it on we recorded yesterday. The video dropped today on the latest Legendary Sickos with myself, Pat Kerrane, Davis Maddock, and Jacob Sanderson, where like this is the, I'm not saying you, David, or whatever. This has been the thing we've talked about with rookies, where every rookie is like, well, I don't care about him for the early season. He's a late season bet. It's like, yeah, generally speaking, the rookies get better, but like, let's not treat the 17th round wide receiver that we're drafting, whatever. Let's not treat Jaden Reed the same way as we treat Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? You wouldn't have treated, I know Amon-Ra came on, right? But you wouldn't treat Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4th round wide receiver, the same as a generational prospect in Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase went in the 5th round. You know what happens when you're just really good like Jamar Chase? Week 1, week 3, week 4, you're good. You're just good. right? And that would, to me, was part of the JSN bet. Yes, it's kind of a free roll because ultimately what I really care about is that he's going to ascend over the course of the season. But like, superstar players are superstar players. Ja'Marr Chase went 5 for 100 and a touchdown in his first week. He scored 4 touchdowns in the first 3 games of his NFL career. Ja'Marr Chase did, right? Like, these guys are just, if you're good, you're good. And like, I think that gets lost sometimes in the rookie thing, where like we extrapolate. It's kind of like the rookie tight end narrative, right? Everybody's, and Kyle Pitts did suck, right? But like, you can't treat Kyle Pitts the same as Luke Musgrave. They're different profiles and different types, so I don't want to treat the Jackson Smith and Jigba is much more similar to Ja'Marr Chase and Jaden Reed, or Jalen Hyatt, or these guys are much more similar to, in what you're hoping for, to Amon-Ra St. Brown types, if that makes sense. How does Tutu get there without Stafford? I don't get the Stafford fade, especially since I'm sure you were smashing Cup too. I mean, Tutu can catch a long touchdown and be helpful in the last round with Stafford not doing anything. Quarterbacks are the least important part of really a fantasy, but like of a stack or whatever. Matthew Stafford can just distribute the ball, hit a big play to Tutu Atwell as an 18th round pick. And that's great for Tutu, but it doesn't mean that Stafford's doing anything. There's also a lot of inherent risk in Matthew Stafford's profile at his age with his injury history. And actually wasn't really that interested. I drafted Kyren Williams, I drafted Tutu Atwell, and I drafted Cooper Kupp. And that was about it. And immobile old quarterbacks on probably bad offenses, not really my bag. Not really the way I definitely enjoyed the 18th round Tutu bring back. A little like Jalen that you could do so much fun stuff in the back of drafts. 10 minutes says, which tool is this? This is our Spike Week tool, which there's a link in the description to get access to this. But this is Draft IQ. So this is the exposure page on Draft IQ. I really like the exposure page because it kind of summarizes everything. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up where you. No one's mad. You're the one in here mad. I don't give a shit. I was drafting Sam Howell before Monday Night Football. I specifically talked about that. You're in here like doom scrolling, coming to watch videos and talk about being mad. Jesus. Are you worried about Devin A-Chain? A little. Yeah, I was worried about A-Chain before. I was drafting A-Chain, obviously. I like to draft the kind of high upside rookies. He's a big play type guy, and I draft tons of Ravens. So naturally that will lead you to someone like A-Chain, but I was pretty worried anyway. I mean, really small running back is a tough bet, like in general. And at that price, it was a little bit of a tough bet. And in the fact that, I never really thought that they would bring somebody in like a Dalvin Cook, given the fact that they got 4 other veterans on the roster, including Myles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed. But it was always kind of a tricky deal, with Mostert and Jeff Wilson. It was very, very murky. And now with the injury, it is. You talk about a late season bet. I think A-Chain has now become that late season. You're not worried about Devin A-Chain in week 1. Let's just say now. Let's see. Cobra Kai. I'm over 50% Sam Howell, but he is worth normally 2 other people, or at least 1. Reiterate what you're trying to say there. I like this. My highest exposure players, round 18, Keontae Ingram. If I miss, who cares? I like that one. I like that one a lot. I've been doing that with Kyren Williams. And I wish I had kind of, I wish we got that information earlier. I actually don't know how much Kyren I have. That is not how you spell Kyren. Let's check out Kyren Williams. So 12% Kyren. Going to have a lot more Kyren on DraftKings, but got to 12% Kyren after we learned, he's definitely the backup. And like, he's a part of the offense, I think. Not even just like the backup. I think he's going to get to play in week 1. Shout out Damani. In a BBM together last night. Yeah, I wanted to get to 149 last night so I could do this show today. Yeah, this is how I like to play the game. Al says, win or lose, heavy exposure on your favorite guys is dope. That's how I feel. I know other people don't necessarily feel that way, but especially in like super top heavy tournaments, that's how I like to play. And I'm willing to go down either way. I'm willing for all this to go to zero, right? I'm willing for every Sam Howell team to go to zero. It's totally fine. I'm playing, of course, to make money. The goal is to make money, but this isn't like, I don't need this money to live. I'm not doing anything, outside of my means or bankroll management, blah, blah, blah. You guys get all that. And so I like to take some stands on guys who I think are mispriced or I think can win me tournaments. And like I said, that's how I like to play. But do rookies no ball? That's a great question. Yeah, agree. Zach says, while I have a lot of JSN, I really just want to see him play. So hopefully he recovers quickly. I totally agree. Every time he's out there in the preseason, he's just dominating. And not, we don't really care that much about the preseason, but it certainly gets you excited. And now I just want to see him out there. This is going to happen now that I have no Stafford and shit on him. Agree with this. This is definitely fun. Looking at I'm not going to pull up the ADP value here. We'll have some future shows on some exposure and stuff that Rob and I will go through. And we'll dig into some of that and look at how terrible I got my money in on Damian Harris, but how good I got my money in good on Sam Howell. I got my money in horrible on Damian Harris and Rashad Penny. It's funny. It's can be really fun to look at the ADP value stuff and really tilting to look at the ADP value stuff. Let's see. Oh, okay. Good question. Good final question. And then I promise we will hop into the draft. I got to oh, okay. So it's it won't show the name if you have 0. So I do have Najee, 2 teams, 2 Najee. Oh, God damn. At least it's correlated with JSN. Maybe Najee was the guy. Najee's the late season play, apparently. Sam Howell, Rashid Shaheed, Rashad Penny, and JSN all on the Najee Harris teams. There you go. CJ Stroud, Jarek, woof. Clearly all like late round. Yeah. Both late round quarterback, both elite tight end teams with Najee. Mark Andrews on one. Who's the other tight end? Kittle on the other. Oh, sir. No, sir. I did not forget about Terry McLaurin. We did not forget about Scary Terry. I assure you. We went ham on Washington, baby. We are Washington football team. I will never call them the Commanders. We are Washington football team stands around here. I've been drafting a lot of Elijah Moore on DraftKings, so I actually don't know how much I have. See? Didn't forget about Elijah Moore either. We got you. We got you, Blur. We got you. All right. Let's do this last draft, huh? Let's pop in. I'm getting in there. I'm clicking the enter button right now as we speak. Only need 3. Thank God. Not going to get all of you sickos in here with me. Full. So this is actually a very good question. Also 102. Getting Jamar Chase on my last team just to put one last needle into the side of Rob Coakley is glorious. That's how you know it's going to be a good season. It's funny you asked this. So I think I talked about this a little bit with Washington tight ends. One of my takes, so a couple things. I think we all have probably understood at this point in the summer that a lot of people have been talking about the late round tight ends being a potential edge, drafting late round tight end teams, the fact that the late round tight ends just legit like project better than the other positions, right? Like we've talked about Hunter Henry a lot, and Luke Musgrave used to go in the last round, and like full time running every route, like getting real target tight ends, and like some of them very good players going in the last round of drafts. So that macro thing I've definitely been doing that, like elite tight end or late round tight end, and really foregoing a lot of the middle ground. But what also an edge, which I was just thinking, I almost, if the 101 would have taken Jamar Chase, it would have been totally fine, but it really would have ruined the bit I was trying to play there. So anyway, on the Washington tight end thing, obviously Washington to me is just an edge. Like, it actually doesn't have that much to do with Sam Howell. He happens to fit the archetype of a quarterback I want to draft, especially in the late rounds, right? Runs, kind of a gunslinger. He's very talented. We'll see if he's actually good. Who knows? But right, when you run like that, you have good weapons, etc. That's the kind of guy I want to draft. They also, right, have good weapons at good prices to draft. But their tight end was going completely undrafted, whoever it was. And early in the summer, I was drafting Logan Thomas, and like way more than the field was, for sure. I'll actually look it up right now while we just got the board up. I can look it up for you. In BBM, so like in BBM, I drafted Logan Thomas 6 times, and that was like a lot early when I was mixing him in to my late round tight end mix, and I jammed. I've been jamming Cole Turner for the last month, and I have 16% Cole Turner. So, a quarter of my teams have a Washington tight end. And that was another thing where you have this late round tight end macro view that I think is really advantageous this year. And then the Washington tight end, it's kind of like, it was almost like Howell, where if we knew who the guy was, they would be getting drafted for sure. There's really not that much. Like, Terry and Dotson are good players. Obviously, I draft a lot of them. Curtis Samuel's fine. But like, hey, none of those guys are like big red zone guys. And it's not like that much target competition. Like, this isn't like playing in Miami with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, or Cincy with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And then you get, if you really want a tight end narrative, right, there's all the narrative going around about Eric Bieniemy's offense, really features the tight end. We'll see about that. But I just wanted to be in on whoever was the tight end. I think I pissed away 6 teams with Logan Thomas, or I might have pissed away 20 teams with Cole Turner. We'll see. But I wanted to get on that situation. I think right now I'm pretty confident it's Cole Turner. Logan Thomas is still hurt, has been hurt multiple times in this offseason already. And Cole Turner has balled out in camp. And the big thing that's been really nice about him that has me on him is the blocking. And that's a lot of the times what gets overlooked, right? Like, in order to play, especially every snap at tight end, you need to be able to, catch the ball, get open. That's great. But you got to be able to block. You got to be trusted in the run game to help the team in the run game. And Cole Turner has been blocking like a madman in the preseason, which I think is going to really help him, kind of take this job over from a pretty dusty Logan Thomas. So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying I'm on Cole Turner. Definitely going to do some weekly winner streams. I think next week, at least on Underdog, that's where I'll be, focusing my attention. We'll definitely be focusing most of our attention, however, on drafters and DraftKings, because I still have a lot of drafts to do there. All right. Jamar Chase. I only have 7% Jamar Chase. Yeah. 7% Olave and Chase. So I'm pretty sure I have to take Olave here. Yeah. Okay. And so for anyone first time watching with the draft hacker, sorry, let me zoom a little bit. So I know it's a little hard to read with the red. It's really easy for me to read it, but it's a little bit tougher on the stream. I get it. But so I have 5 different data points outside of the playoff schedule. Obviously, you see the week 15, 16, and 17 playoff schedule on here. I'm going to take, I'm going to take DK. Excuse me. But I have my exposure in this tournament is your first number. My exposure overall in all of the tournaments. And then my third number is my exposure with my first quarterback. So obviously I haven't drafted a quarterback, so that's going to show 0 for everybody. Then my exposure to that player with my first round pick. So in this, what does my exposure look like for this player on Jamar Chase teams? and then my exposure in this fifth number with my second round pick. So in this instance, Chris Olave, right? So I can clearly see I have 10% Mahomes with Chase, 0% Mahomes with Olave. Metcalf, same thing. I didn't actually have any Metcalf and Olave in 149 teams. So we went that route. Plus, you guys know me with my wide receiver love. Let me get the board back up here. 3 to 4 weeks. Shit. Well, we got 16 days until the season starts. Yeah. Nerd Rage says, watching Antonio Gibson become the Washington Debo. Hey, Brian Robinson looked fine too last night. The running back usage was good. The willingness / ability for Howell to check the ball down was really promising. Like a lot of times that's the mistake, right? Watch Zach Wilson. He sucks, but you also watch the bad quarterbacks and they can't go through their progressions and then just hit the check down, right? That's why is Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady so good? A lot of different reasons, but they're so good at going through their reads. And when it's not there, they're still going to make positive plays happen, right? Check it down to the running back, let him get 3 or 4 and move on to the next play. Don't force it. Don't take a sack. That's wildly important. Light of Truth, congrats on 150. Love hearing you talk about best ball. Very insightful. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining me for number 150 here. Yeah. Plus, now that you took DK, it opens the door for that sweet, sweet Najee Week 17 correlation. That is very good. Cobra Kai said, I've been doing some Durham Smythe lately, a full faded Tyreek Hill. Oh my gosh, you are a madman. But if Tua goes down, plus the off the field incident a few months back, it just scared me. Yeah, and look, I personally was not at all fading Tyreek Hill. Let me see how much Tyreek I have actually. We got 11%, so I got a little overweight on Tyreek. Let's compare him to Kupp. 13% Kupp. The big thing that definitely happened is I don't have much McCaffrey or Kelsey. 5% CMC and 5% Kelsey. So take away a few percentage points from each of those guys and hand it over to Tyreek and Kupp, and that's where you see that came from. But yeah, you can't. It's tough to predict concussions. It feels scary with Tua and Tyreek getting into trouble all the time. Certainly doesn't feel good. But no risk it, no biscuit in these. But also, I really honestly get if anybody that has a personal opinion to fade anyone, as long as you understand. That's the thing that gets lost in best ball sometimes. As long as you understand the full picture about every player and you're willing to accept the fact that there's clearly a way that Tyreek Hill burns you, but you would rather go somewhere else with your money, dude, fucking spend your money how you want. Draft who you want to draft. As long as you understand, if you don't understand why people are drafting Tyreek Hill and you're fading him that way, I think you're probably a fool. If you acknowledge all this, right? I acknowledge there's ways for Najee Harris to bury me. I totally acknowledge that. And most players, even one, right? Matthew Stafford, we talked about before. Could we get to week 17 and he throws for 350 and 4 against the Giants? Absolutely. I could get buried. Ooh, see, son of a. You know what? We are going to smooth out the exposures in the last draft. We're going to take Nuke. Don't have him with these guys. Got a little week 16 correlation for funsies there. Yeah. How long will Najee sit at the top of at the top? So here's the question. Do I take McLaurin? Do I take Hawk? Maybe would be. I'm sitting here thinking out. I'm gonna do Hawk actually. I don't do a lot of Hawk, but Jaylen Warren, I agree with you. It makes it move. Berg says, I'm fading Diggs. Seems to be in the decline. I love Tyreek. Video made it seem like I know you didn't mean it this way, but when you read the video made it seem like battery was no big deal. When you read that out loud, it sounds funny. Like, well, battery is a pretty big deal, but agree with you that it didn't. I think it's going to be. I mean, Tyreek is a piece of shit. Let's get that out of the way. But in terms of him helping us in fantasy, I think it's going to be just it's just good old fashioned battery. I don't see, the video made it seem fine, right? Just battery, just a Sultan battery. I don't see what you're worried about. I mean, shit, the NFL ain't worried about it. Joe Mixon and all these guys still get to keep playing. Have a $10 same game parlay and you're fucking gone for 6 games. Smoke a J and you're gone for, a year, but don't do those. But you want to beat somebody up? What were they doing? Like deep sea fishing, Tyreek? Like the captain of the boat on your deep sea fishing trip is, not driving to the right part of the ocean for you. Knock that dude the fuck out. By all means, no suspension. Who cares? Harm your pregnant wife or whatever it was that he did before, child. I don't remember. Joe Mixon, beat the shit out of whoever the hell you want. We're not going to suspend you. But that $10 same game parlay, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah, Tyreek is always a suspension risk. I agree. Yeah, you're right. I full faded Alexander Madison. He screams Falcons Mike Davis to me. I'm on the Ty Chandler train. Yeah. Madison was a guy who I was like sort of indifferent to, as the cost never like got out of hand. I kind of thought he'd get real expensive, like kind of in the Najee, early 4th or something like that. The people loved him, right? You get the projectable volume without Dalvin. He just never got to that point. So the way I draft, right, you get to the 6th round, and a lot of the times you don't have a running back yet. So he started to be appealing on certain teams for me. How much Tony Pollard? 1 second. Probably not as much as I thought I would have had this year. 13%. Yeah, this is a great point. That's another thing is like at the very beginning of the season, I certainly should have drafted more Madison, and I didn't, honestly. So, sometimes when you miss the boat, you just move on. I remember back on draft, for anybody that played on draft years ago, speaking of Tyreek and suspension risk, it was that summer that we were worried about him getting suspended, like majorly suspended, like 10 games or like the whole season, or like a big suspension issue was in play for Tyreek Hill, and he got 2 games or none. Was it none? I think he got none, if I recall. In 2019 or whatever that was. You guys can correct me. I'm not remembering exactly, but he was going in like that. He went as late as like the 10th round for a stretch on draft. And I literally, the very first article I ever wrote, we got at Roto-Grinders. We were doing some draft content, and I got to do some of that. And the very first article I wrote was like, what do you do with Tyreek Hill, basically? And it was not the same thing as Madison, but it was like, look, if you weren't drafting him in the 10th round, he ended up going in the 2nd round back then. So he went from the 10th round to the 2nd round on draft. It's like, if you weren't drafting him in the 10th and now he's going in the 2nd, like, I know it sucks, but tough shit. You're fading Tyreek Hill. Like it's just, it's hard for any individual guy to be the guy you need. And I don't want to go to battle with my guy. I paid a 2nd round price, and a bunch of guys, half the field has him as a 10th in the 10th round, especially when it's someone like Tyreek Hill. So you just fade him and move on. Like, if Alexander Madison is the guy you need, so what? We come back and play again next year. We got playoff best ball in a few months. We got NBA, we got MLB. It'll be all right, Yeah, none. Yeah, that was. Yeah, it might have been even deeper than I could probably still Google whatever thing about Tyreek Hill. God damn it. Really wanted Dobbins there, you sons of bitches. And I really could have used Dobbins. on this team. That is very unfortunate. I knew Nez was going to take JSN. I absolutely knew that was going to happen. So I'm going to, oh God. I'll set up, I'll take Addison. We'll set up for the situation in which Justin Jefferson fails. Not necessarily over the course of the season, but over the course of, get to week 17. Bring me Addison and Hawk to week 17, and Jefferson gets shut down. That sounds pretty good. It is certainly funny that we've made it to draft number 150, and I am not going to take any. I am taking Zay Flowers to the point of whoever in the chat. Cobra Kai, I'm with you. I'm on Zay. Very much on Zay Flowers. Who is my highest owned wide receiver? I think Dotson passed Bateman. 1 second. You can also go back toward the beginning. I walked through all kind of my top exposures. Yeah. So Dotson got past Rashad Bateman as my highest. Those are my two highest owned wide receivers, followed up by JSN. And then my highest owned running back is Damian Harris, J.K. Dobbins, and Rashad Penny. So it's a little mixed bag. Mixed bag on how that has turned out. Yeah, Zay looks good, man. Zay looks good. Let's hope. Do you think anyone becomes a full-time best ball content creator in the next year? Basketball and NHL start on 9-8 in earnest, and then MLB and PGA. Well, I am. Technically. But we obviously, it's not like we're just making money off of content. It's not actually our main core business. But yeah, I've been a full-time best ball content creator for a couple years now. Yeah, that's what you get passing up a healthy Najee, trying for a banged up Dobbins. Yeah, you get sniped on Dobbins and JSN. Literally my two favorite players to draft, and in this range, in my last draft, and they go right in front of me, all because I've slandered Najee Harris to death. Speaking of NBA, doesn't the season start in October? Where is DK? Yeah, I don't know where DK NBA best ball is. I try not to guess what DraftKings got going on over there. It's like the gif of the monkeys like smoking cigarettes or whatever, like typing away. I feel like that's how their best ball product kind of gets created. That being said, made a lot of really good improvements. There's still a long way to go on the old DK best ball product, but they made some good improvements. Nerd Rage says, last year you sniped Trey Lance from me when I had Debo. Thank you. You are welcome. I'm sure I sniped Trey Lance from plenty of people that they were mad at the time. And looking back, no one ever comes back and says, thank you for drafting that really shitty fucking player, when I was going to draft him. Right? Nobody's going to be coming back and saying, thank you for taking all of this, Damian Harris, when he's the third string running back on. I wanted him too. Nobody thanks you for that. Well, no, I mean, it's hard to explain. I have a weird job. I do still do DFS. I'm a salaried employee, so I don't get it. But in terms of 1099 from, got 1099 from Underdog and DraftKings and Drafters and whatever. But yeah, I do still obviously DFS, sports betting, best ball. Kind of do it all, but my number one main job is I'm 100% all in Spike Week and all in best ball. real, yeah. It's funny you say this. Cobra Kai says I did not think Purdy would be ready week 1. Months ago, I did not either. I thought, like in the big board, I drafted a bunch of Trey Lance. We burned those teams because I didn't think, it's a pretty serious deal to blow out your elbow for a quarterback. And at that time, we didn't have it was like hopeful reports, but it wasn't like there was nothing about like, oh yeah, Purdy will for sure be back back then. It was like, oh, we'll see. They're hoping he can get back by week 1, but there was not like that much positivity. Well, misunderstood. Oh, gotcha. I see what you're saying. Sorry. Too many comments. I'm trying to keep my thoughts straight. How much do you have of the dead players? Oh, good one. Good question. Tim Patrick, we got lucky on one Tim Patrick team. Damn, burned a. There's one. That's one of my Dobbins. We burned a Bijan Dobbins team with Mac Jones and who's the other quarterback on this team? What am I missing? Oh, Russ. Yeah, I think we'll be all right without that one. Gage. I was drafting Gage early, so I probably have a handful. No, one. I was sprinkling in some Gage early. Okay, time to. I'm really buying the top on some of these guys, but god damn, Nez is scooping all the guys, all the fallers and the guys at the end of these tiers. JSN, Bateman, love it. All right, time to actually get some running backs, I guess. Let me see here. What number is my pick next? I've been getting sniped like a mother on quarterbacks, so I'm a little gun shy, but I got to take AJ Dillon to go with my Vikings here. As you obviously see, again, for anybody that hasn't used the Draft Hacker, when you have a correlation lineup there, you can pick the colors. I use green and a green for same team and orange for opposite team correlations. But I'm pretty into AJ Dillon. I wonder how much AJ Dillon I have. I should really know these things, by the way. Like, not every single player, but I should really know. Yeah, drafted AJ Dillon 28 times. You can definitely see my structure in my exposures. It shines through pretty clearly. Good question, Bullock. I do. I really enjoy MLB DFS. I will actually be in Philadelphia this weekend for the FanDuel MLB Live Final, which is on Sunday. But I'll get to, if anybody's in Philly, I'll be in Philly from Friday to Monday this coming weekend for the live final for MLB DFS. So yeah, Dustin, last one. Positive thing about this is I'm definitely sad it's my last BBM, but we have so many tournaments to draft for now. I got so many drafts to do over the 16 days, and then you look at how many more drafts you have to do. It is fucking daunting. So it is a little bittersweet, but also the crying inside is partially because I look at how many drafts I have to do in 16 days, and it's a lot. Way too many. Yeah. It's like Nez can see the players. You're like, yeah, that is a good point. Drafting next to you guys and drafting obviously next to Nez. I know Nez, he knows what he's doing. Like drafting next to sharp people, and you just told them all the players you like to draft is probably should have done the exposure review after the draft was over instead of being like, the top 2 players by ADP are JSN and JK Dobbins, and those are 2 of my 6 highest owned players. Wonder who Eric's gonna fucking take. Oh man. Let's see. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, David. Wanted to see how it worked out. We'll see. I felt like this to the JSN and Dobbins point. You also generally feel like you can trust a room like this to not screw up what you're doing at quarterback a little bit. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. What Chiefs wide receiver do you think has the highest upside if Kelsey gets injured? Ooh. Well, Tony has the highest upside, but it's probably the thinnest bet because the dude literally can never be on the field. But if there's no Kelsey, I think you have to do something with the guys who you can manufacture touches for, like Tony, and can do some of the short area stuff, right? And stuff after the catch. Like MVS ain't doing any of that stuff that Kelsey and Tony do. I'm not sure Rashee Rice is either. I think it's Richie James. If we throw away Tony, it's Richie James / Sky. I'm still not bought into Sky. I really don't draft Sky very much. I take him a little more on DraftKings because he's cheaper and full point PPR. I'm pretty big on Richie James. I think it's very possible he's their best wide receiver. Like way more possible than the market seems to think. Will he? I don't know. I think the most likely scenario is probably that Richie James just plays a little bit in each game, maybe needs Sky to get hurt because he's also mostly just a slot receiver. But I think, I don't think like this Noah Gray isn't Isaiah Likely where they probably just, right? If something happens to Andrews, Likely just takes that job. He's worse at it, but he's fine. He just becomes the new Mark Andrews. I don't think Noah Gray is that for Travis Kelce, right? So I think that they would change some things around. You'd get more Richie James. You'd get more Sky. You might get more Rice. You need a little bit more juice when you don't have Travis Kelce. So I'm going to say Richie James. This is definitely true. Burgas, are you maxing the drafters $20? I'm trying, but I got a lot to do. I'm actually going to be hammering a bunch of slow drafts on drafters, which I'm not excited about, but we're going to try. We're going to see what we can do. Wydad says, I wonder who thought 150 was the holy number for max entries. Every single platform followed suit. It's legal. It's from when the legalization of DFS happened. Part of that, in DFS, you used to be able to play more than 150 entries, and they limited it down as a part of the regulation on the industry. Yep, I agree. Nez says, I really thought Richie James was good, but I'm respecting the market. I actually so I was drafting Richie James at the beginning of the summer because I was pretty certain he was good. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was my take. And then the market absolutely disagreed with me. And frankly, he's not really running with the ones right now. But I've kind of gone back to trusting myself a little bit. All right, I'm actually taking Geno, and we'll talk about this. We got a nice long break after this next pick. I'm not going to take Kirk Cousins. I know that I have Addison and TJ Hawkinson, and he goes to the Justin Jefferson drafter. I almost wanted to give it. So there's a couple reasons for not taking Kirk Cousins for me. I don't think that I'm not saying you cannot take him to be totally clear, but I do think, damn, is Jalen Warren? When is Jalen Warren going now? God damn, 115. I say that, and I'm going to tank, I think. What's tight end looking like? No. Wide receiver. And don't even have any correlations, I guess. Rice, but no, I'm going to take tank. So, it didn't end up mattering because Cousins didn't get back to me, but that's also partially why I pushed him. Was so twofold. One, I'm obviously drafting next to the Justin Jefferson drafter, right? MVP had the 101, got Justin Jefferson. So I'm not trying to tank his team, giving him Kirk Cousins with Justin Jefferson. It's not tanking anybody's team, but I don't have Justin Jefferson. Addison and Hawkinson can both be good with Justin Jefferson, but their big wins are if something happens to Justin Jefferson, right? So they increase target share, or Justin Jefferson's bad in a given week, right? If Justin Jefferson is dominating, it's not that those guys can't get there, but it certainly is not helpful, in terms of them getting a bunch of yards and scoring a bunch of touchdowns if Justin Jefferson is stealing them. And so when maybe the best path for those two players, something really bad happens to the best player on the team, that is actually really bad for the quarterback, right? I don't want Jefferson to suck because, yes, technically Kirk Cousins can throw for 350 and 4 if Jefferson doesn't do anything, but you want to start talking about thin bets. That's a pretty tough outcome to ask. I know that those two other guys are very good, but it's just like when you're breaking ties. I think I have Geno ranked ahead of Kirk Cousins. Anyway, he does run a little bit. I'm very in on the Seahawks. And then I need Tank is my RB3. So I need running backs real bad. We're in the range where I want to be taking running backs. I'm getting a quarterback here in Geno. And I know that the 101, or I think I know that the 101 is going to take Cousins because he has Jefferson. So it's okay, I'm probably going to get my pick of running back. Give me Geno. If Cousins falls back, I can think about it, right? I could double tap quarterback here, but just thinking all that through, and I rant about that right now because I've had that happen. Like I've had Addison and Hawkinson teams where Geno, where I have Metcalf or JSN, and it's also a 0 RB team like this where I need running backs, and I've done those mental gymnastics before. So I thought it was funny that it came up on the very last stream of the entire year. Thank you, Bernie. Definitely gonna have to fire up some slows if there's I forgot that there's no drafters in Pennsylvania. Those Pennsylvania fees for operators are insane. Yeah, not a Cousins guy, not a Stafford guy. Yeah, those are not my guy. Last year I didn't take Stafford. I haven't taken Aaron Rodgers the last couple of years. Tom Brady, didn't take Tom Brady at all last year. Those are that's not my cup of tea. Yeah, I agree with this. Imagine being a running back and not being named Tank. If I actually wanted my kids to play running back, which I don't, my kids will not be playing running back. But if I wanted my children to play running back, they would be named Tank for sure. Now we're talking. Howell Turner. I got a couple other things. We got some other stuff in the back pocket. Yeah. Start talking about the shitty old pocket passers. The dogs are not fans. No, this team's set up for some other good stuff, though. Olave, so I don't know if the car's still available, but Olave's got car, and there's some Saints stuff you can do later. Nuke has Tannehill later, and then there's some potential correlations as backdoor quarterbacks. I really don't like taking Bryce Young in any of those options, but technically available to me with Tank there, and something really funky with Ritter and Mac Hollins or something is available to go with Khalil Herbert. So we got options. I do like this one. I do. Juwan is balling out of control, man. In camp and in the preseason, I'm trying not to be influenced by that, but it's certainly a little difficult. And I also guys, I'm trying to smooth out the Damian Harris exposure here. We're trying not to. Damian Harris it is. Let's ride. Come on, guys. Why do you make me do these things? Now, Algier. Let me think about this. Yeah, I think this needs to be Mostert to go with Zay, because I don't want Herbert Algier. I don't love the I don't love the running back correlation. Yeah, I like Algier there a lot. I probably have more Algier than Mostert. And I know Mostert has risen, but we're in the 140s. I don't care. Yeah, I like Jeff Wilson later as well. He's also hurt right now. I like Jeff Wilson later too. I'm like between Jeff Wilson and Mostert. I don't really care too much. I like both, basically, is what I'm saying. And I'm going to draft both in my next 16 days of drafts. I like both of them a lot. But yeah, it was just this. They're both correlated, and I need a running back. And I do like Carr here, but I don't want to. The cliff is going to drop off for me at running back, and I'm in need. Khalil Herbert's my RB1, right? AJ Dillon's my RB2. Like I like these teams. I like this like type of a running back room, but I kind of need to hit this tier a little bit. And Jeff Wilson was definitely not coming back to me. Harbs literally sniping Jeff Wilson away here. Yeah, definitely agree. The one nice thing about Mostert is you want to talk about the so like Tank is playing for late season, right? Tank Bigsby is playing for as the season goes on. Mostert is playing for week 1 because he's going to be the goddamn starter in week 1. Like he is. He's just going to, he is going to help this team at running back week 1. So like him and Khalil Herbert, like if this were if this were an FFPC main event, a season long team, like this team would go to week 1 and I would be starting Raheem Mostert and Khalil Herbert at running back. And so he helps this team, for the first month or whatever. Hopefully he helps it all year, but he certainly helps it at the beginning when I'm pretty weak, pretty weak. You hope for a Damian Harris touchdown or an AJ Dillon touchdown, right? Tank Bigsby touchdown. And that's what I do like about all those guys is they have, if Tank really does get the goal line work from ETN, and we know there's potential for Damian Harris or Latavius Murray to get the goal line work, and God knows AJ Dillon can get the goal line work. It's like that texture is important too. Like, yes, they need an injury basically to become like a big time smash, but you can luck box some weeks from those kind of guys because it's like 40 yards and a goal line touchdown is 10 points. And like if Jamar Chase, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, Nuke, Hawkinson, right? If all those guys are doing their jobs, that's like all you need at the running back position. You'd like more, but we're just trying to advance. We ain't trying to set the world on fire here. Like probably not winning the regular season prize with this group of running backs. That would be pretty impressive, but probably not happening. Yep, I like this. Wait, what? There are 16 other games that Algier take with severe broken brain. No, I'm just breaking Algier and Raheem Mostert. What's it like? We just outlined why RB is not correlated. Right, it's negatively correlated. So when I have Zay Flowers and if Raheem Mostert and Tyler Algier are both being drafted at the same right, the market has said that they're the same. I think that they're pretty similar. In fact, Raheem Mostert, as we outlined, has much more week 1 value. Tyler Algier needs Bijan to go down. If let's say all else equal, these guys are close enough to the exact same bet, and one has this really nice positive correlation, and one has this negative correlation on it, like I'm gonna take the positive one. Just that's how we break ties. Ooh, we got a little quarterback run here. I was kind of wondering if Derek Carr might fall all the way back, but kind of figured not. That being said, I still might take Juwan and just make this hey, I don't think he likes Juwan. Or I think he wanted Carr to come back. One of the two. No. I'm not leaving this draft without my guy. Tajay. We're not doing it. We're not leaving this draft without Tajay. That's my dude. Like him on this team as well. And now we can kind of figure out. I like Juwan. I like Kendre. Trying to see about any other stacks to set up. I'm not going to take Howell here. I think 52% is okay. I'm going to take Juwan, though. So here's the thing. Another thing that I like to do, like stacking without the quarterback, which is why I took Juwan, right? And especially stacking without a pocket passing quarterback. Like Derek Carr's not running, right? And so it's really hard for him to like put up a score at quarterback that I'm like really tilted I don't have, right? And so I can get another stack somewhere else, right? I can take Howell later. I can take Ritter later. I can take CJ Stroud or Mac Jones or Tannehill or whoever later. I'm not saying I don't want, like I just talked about, I would have liked to have Derek Carr on this team. Like if I could have double tapped, Carr, Juwan there, it'd be pretty fun. But it's not the end of the world if you lose out on the quarterback who's just a point guard, right? Doesn't run, does like Derek Carr ain't even going to ever take a QB sneak. Like that dude is just a point guard facilitating. So you're going to soak up all of his production through his weapons. So you can add that stack onto your team, especially the Saints being one that I really, really like. I'm really excited about the Saints this year. You can add that stack on, and now you actually just create more stacks on your team. Your stacks don't only have to be with the ones that are attached to your quarterback. You can do it in a multitude of different ways. And now I'll take a different one of these late round quarterbacks, No, I think Zach says, I'm not sure what the stats say, but I kind of like taking 2 running backs in unknown backfields like Chicago or Miami. Also prefer it a smidge more in 20 rounds, but I like it with like Mostert and Wilson or A-Chain. You could like pair one of them with A-Chain. Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson, I think is totally fine. I actually prefer those than handcuffing guys. Not particularly interested in doing that. When are you going to let the dog do a draft? Well, the dog would not have drafted Trey Lance. The dog would not have drafted Kyle Pitts last year. Maybe I'll let them. There's 2 of them. I'll let them. I should have let them tag team the 150th draft probably. But they clearly make it known when they don't like, certain picks or things that we're talking about. So they have strong takes. They'd like me. They would take big stands. For sure. But I like this team. Now this is a take. L. Gooner. Justin Ross is basically young Julio Jones with Pat Mahomes. I have some fun, wild, hot takes. That's a take. That is certainly a take. If Julio Jones hadn't done anything for like 6 years and didn't have functioning legs, then that's probably pretty accurate. If Julio ever took a break from football for a half decade and basically couldn't get medically cleared to play football and probably wasn't going to make the roster that he was on, then yes. Pretty true. I mean, I drafted 52% Sam Howell in this fucking tournament. How much spicier do we need to get? I'm not trying to get spicier. We led the show with the spiciness. Look at Richie James. You fish. Talk up Richie James for 2 seconds. Boom, drafted. Oh God, Michael Wilson. Who is this? This is an awesome username. If you're watching, that's an incredible username. David, zip it. I wish we need sarcasm. We need sarcasm fonts for sure. And yes, on a positive note, who does this? Who does he have? So he shouldn't be taking. So now I got to think this through. Do I really build out this Saints thing with Shaheed, who I already have a bunch? Let's just take Tannehill first. I don't want to screw this up by trying to rush it. I know you could have pushed it. He wasn't going to take Tannehill. You could have just pushed it. Like, yeah, but what? I'm not getting anything out of that, and I've made that mistake too many times. So I really like Chuba. Gus Edwards actually makes sense on this team, which makes me sick. I'm trying to think about this. We're going to do Chuba. I think he's the best fit. Little week 16 and week 17 correlation. It is running back correlation. So I'm literally being a fucking hypocrite. I'm not going to lie to you. I have a take. Well, we're getting spicy. We'll get spicy with El Gunner. I'm not convinced that Justice Hill doesn't get in on that backup job with Gus. I'm not saying like Gus is never going to get the ball and Justice is the backup. But I'm not convinced that Gus is for sure the same Gus that we've seen in the past. There's a take. And that's why I was a little squeamish on Gus right there and why I decided to go for Chuba. I also just admittedly I draft off ADP, as you see. I don't put rankings in here. I just draft off of ADP. And I have Chuba ranked quite a bit higher than Gus, but you also saw that in my exposure. I have a lot more Chuba. I'll keep all my fun. Let me think about who is a fun. Okay, there's one for sure fun late round. So that this is gonna be the tried and true 2772 team. We're gonna be drafting a wide receiver at the end here. Got a couple options. I don't have a Steeler. I don't have a Tampa Bay Buck to come back with Olave. Don't have a Texan. So that's probably where I'm focusing. Yeah, I sprinkle a little smidgy of A.T. Perry. Not much. Mostly on DraftKings, 20 rounds. Again, the 20 rounds, I love the 20 rounds to really have some damn fun in the 19th and 20th. Frankly, the 18th, 19th, 20th. It's a lot more fun. You are never going to, you know me well enough to know I am not drafting A-Rob. Louis, appreciate you showing up even though you're late. On a positive note, this one's not going to be 3 hours like the Legendary Sicko shows. This will be over shortly and you can go back and watch from the beginning. I enjoyed it. We got to walk through my exposures. And this has been a lot of fun. Yes, sir, he is. Yes, sir, he is. He is currently ahead of Logan Thomas as well. Justice Hill has looked real good. I have almost no Dobbins, no Gus Edwards. My highest owned Ravens players are Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. I have tons of Mark Andrews, tons of Bateman, tons of Flowers, tons of Lamar. I draft all the Ravens. I even have some Odell because I just draft the Ravens. What is it? I mean, you don't really actually have to tell me. I can go look it up after we are done here. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see what Underdog brings us. Yeah, you guys are hitting all the. There's one other round 18 widers. You guys have definitely hit the two of the three. Yeah, Justice Hill is definitely a Spike Week approved guy. And again, I know I keep saying this, and so I'll shut up about it. But that 20 round extras, I think these guys are so. A.T. Perry, as you guys mentioned, in 18 rounds, there is a little bit of a difference between round 18 and round 20. Not much, but like in 20 rounds, there's guys that go in the 17th on here as fucking. I just realized Harbs took Calvin Austin. I didn't even realize that. Literally, username Sniper taking taking all my guys here, but Justice Hill, right? Fire these guys. Rico Dowdle before everybody started to know he was a thing. Like those are like, have some fun with those last round guys, especially in those 20 rounds. Yeah, I mean, you should do it in 18 rounds too. But man, when you get extra 2 picks, son of a bitch. Well, Louis, you are in the right place. As you see at the top of your screen, we are sickos. And this is what we think about. Hop in the car. You're running errands. You're walking the dogs. This is what you're thinking about. What 18th round pick should I take on a Ryan Tannehill, Geno Smith team? These are the things that consume my brain. Yeah, I'm not at 5%. Well, I don't know how many. I literally just took Justice Hill in a DK Millie draft before we got on here. So I should have probably done a better job of. Okay, so Calvin Austin is gone, right? Yeah, Calvin Austin is gone. Are there any Texans left? I'm sure Tank's gone. Yeah. So no. So that leaves us with one guy, right? Bring back to our Saints stack, Trey Palmer. Side note, Bindles brings up Andre Iosivas, Yoshivas. I think it's Yo, I believe, is how you pronounce the beginning of that. And I found out why this dude is an even bigger baller than we thought he was. He goes by the nickname Yoshi. So Google him and you'll find out how he got the nickname Yoshi. But yeah, Trey Palmer, one of my 18th round guys. Also, took a Saints stack. Perfect bring back to the Saints stack in week 17. Yeah, Westbrook Akine would have made sense. Kyle, I don't like drafting Westbrook Akine. I don't like drafting him at all, but Burks will be back and he's going to take away that role from him. Whereas Kyle Phillips is still going to be the slot receiver. So, all right, let's run this team down and then we'll get out of here. From the 102 to ruin Rob Coakley's life just a little bit more. Jamar Chase, Chris Olave, which was nice having almost no Chris Olave with Jamar Chase. And getting that in the last draft is nice. And DK Metcalf for a little bit of a fun. And then honestly, to DeAndre Hopkins, that first group of 4 and then taking Hawk in the 5th, it's totally reasonable, at cost, top guy on the board every single time, and a unique grouping for me. Especially with Hopkins and Hawkinson not being guys I take a ton. Come back with Jordan Addison. Obviously, that's a little secondary Vikings correlation. So there's another, week 17 stack. I can pull that up in a second, actually. Just while I'm thinking about it, let me go to the playoff view. So we go to week 17. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but it reminded me. In week 17, we got the Green Bay and Minnesota game that's fun. Addison, Hawkinson, AJ Dillon. Got New Orleans, Tampa Bay with Chris Olave, Juwan Johnson, and Trey Palmer. Got the awful RB Carolina with Tank Bigsby and Chuba Hubbard. And then we got the Mostert and Zay Flowers. Might have had Calvin Austin as a bring back to our Geno stack and might have had somebody from Houston if that happened. But it's nice to still have these other games stacked up, 3 of them mainly. And then you still have 2 main stacks. So it's kind of a little bit of a different way of getting fewer things right. Anyway, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, clearly 0 RB team. Khalil Herbert to kick off the 0 RB build in the 8th round at running back. AJ Dillon, Geno Smith to stack up with DK Metcalf. Tank Bigsby, Damian Harris, Raheem Mostert, and Tyjae Spears to still getting 6 running backs through 14 rounds. You can't really complain. At Tyjae, that's my guy. That's my guy right now. I also really love Tyjae with Tannehill is a fun one. If something happens to Derrick Henry, wheels up for Tyjae, but they're going to throw more. Come back with Juwan Johnson, superstar training camp tight end, apparently, for the New Orleans Saints, and then draft Tannehill to build out the Titan stacks. Chuba Hubbard as my final running back in round 17, and Trey Palmer in the 18th round to go with the New Orleans Saints. All right, guys, this was a ton of fun. If you joined late, we walked through for the first 20 minutes or so my exposures in Best Ball Mania through 149 teams. Took some pretty big stands, but definitely had a lot of fun. Shout out Sam Howell. Shout out the Ravens, whatever. So go back and watch that and be on the lookout for the rest of the week. We got more drafts coming. And last thing, Legendary Sickos, if you've been watching our shows, you probably already are aware. If you're in the Discord, make sure you check out that link. If you're not, in the description. Legendary Sickos new episode dropped today. It is a marathon, as per usual, a marathon episode, but a really fun one where Pat and I brought his dynasty compadres, Davis Maddock and Jacob Sanderson, over, and we talked about how we can kind of, gain an edge in our best ball drafts here as we close out the summer using a dynasty mindset. So thinking about things through a dynasty lens and taking these last 16 days to really kind of hammer what that means in best ball drafts. So that's up on the YouTube channel here, which you're probably watching on. So check that out as well. Get over on Drafters, promo code SPIKE, 100% deposit bonus. I'm going to be over there for the next 16 days drafting like crazy. It's going to be a lot of overlay. So I will see you guys over there, and I will see you guys a little later this week. Thank you. Have a good night. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there, you can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.